Welcome to the FLO Podcast with Marcus Johnson, where we talk about all things for the love of you. I'm your host, Marcus Johnson. The FLO Podcast is designed to discuss life topics and explore some tools to help you actively engage in your life. You know, sometimes we feel lost, we feel alone, we lack focus, and just feel stuck. During the next several minutes, my aim is to help you understand that all of this is just part of the human experience. It's part of the flow. Flow is spelled F.L.O. with no W, and it means for the love of. As an award-winning entrepreneur, musician, lawyer, professor, and most importantly, a father, I've had many experiences that have taught me invaluable lessons and tools that we all can use to achieve our highest flow. Actually, these tools help us to realize where we are, where we want to be, and a model that we can use to get us there. We call it going deeper, and it's DEEPER. It's the life model within which we operate this podcast. So buckle up and get centered and fall into the present as we begin to develop our highest flow. It's for the love of you, and it is episode 1. What is flow? Well, I tell you, on our wine bottles, on all the music that we release, we have this flow statement, and it's this. What is flow? Flow represents the journey through which we discover those things in life that fulfill us and make each experience that much better. For the love of life, self, happiness, passion, joy, love itself. And this podcast is but one expression. And so really, what are we talking about there? We're talking about the whole idea and the concept of lifestyle enhancement. I mean, you already have your life. You already are doing things the way that you do them. You get up a certain way. You get going for the morning a certain way. You work a certain way. You engage with your family a certain way. You engage with your friends and loved ones in a certain way. And the flow idea is that we kind of fit in as a lifestyle partner to make everything just a little bit better. And we say, making your life better one sip and sound at a time. Now it's one sip and sound and scent at a time as we release our new candles. But really, it's the idea of being in an interesting business. And people ask, how did you come up with flow? And it's because I realized that I was not in the music business or the entertainment business, even as a jazz piano player, as my main occupation. Now you say, Marcus, wait, what do you mean? Well, I was reading a book, I think it's called Uncommon Ground by Howard Schultz, who's the founder of Starbucks. And he mentioned that when Starbucks was at its height and had tens of thousands of stores, around the United States, you could go to Manhattan and see a Starbucks, one on each corner. And they were starting to cannibalize each other's sales. And so they ended up starting to downsize and closing. And he had left the company and had to come back. And he said the question that Starbucks had to ask itself was, in what business are we? And they figured out that they were in the third place business. The first place being your home, the second place being your office, and the third place being a Starbucks. And that's when in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, you started to see a change in how Starbucks looked. It wasn't about coffee because they weren't in the coffee business. They were in the third place business, giving you a place to have an outlet outside of the crib, i.e. your home, or outside of the office. You could go to Starbucks and chill. You could get Wi-Fi at the time, which, in 2004 through 2006, that was a thing. We could just drive up to a Starbucks outside of it, jump on the Wi-Fi, get some business done, and go home if you didn't have it at your house, So third place, right? So I had to do the same thing in the 2004 time period when the peer-to-peer services came in for music, and Napster came out and mp3.com came out, and it changed everything. And this is a very important lesson as we talk about life and business as entrepreneurs, as parents, as significant others, as spouses, the idea of being very dynamic in how you live your life and realizing what business you're in. Maybe you're not in the spousal business. Maybe you're not in just the marriage business. Maybe you're in the, hey, I'm working with my partner to help them realize that they're their highest potential business, right? So for Flow, we realized that Marcus Johnson was not in the entertainment business, that I was in the therapy business. And I know people are like, the therapy business? Well, how do you get that? Well, why do you use my music? You use it as an escape. In 2004, you were using jazz festivals to get out and have fun. Again, not necessarily escapism, but having funism, therapy. The idea that you needed a break, a time out, time to download, time to get away, time not to think. And this is pre-notifications going off every 5 seconds from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and everything else on your phone, right? So if we needed breaks back then, imagine what we need now. That is really where the concept of flow came from. And we took it and came up with these lifestyle CDs, the FLO Chill, FLO Romance, FLO Standards. And then that moved into FLO Wine because, again, no, I'm not a winemaker, but I own a wine brand that pairs music and wine together. You know, anybody can pair food and wine together, but can you pair music and wine? And then we moved on to concepts like Love and Jazz Weekend that we do with Sheila Johnson at the Salamander Resorts. Shout out to my girl, Sheila, and the great things that she's doing there, where you come together for a weekend and you get away for the love of, Love and Jazz Weekend during Valentine's Day. And so, we keep moving, and now we're into candles, and now we're into this podcast, which is, really, I don't want to get too far off the point, but that's it. And it's a great lessons in many of the concepts of getting your flow. Now, I did a TEDx talk at Emily Carr University for Art and Design in Vancouver, Canada in 2017, and I talked about flow. And I introduced the idea of not just for the love of, but F, having fun, L, loving the process, and O, organizing with others. So that's one of the acronyms that I'll revert back to as we're talking to different guests and as we're dealing with different concepts and episodes, like, for the love of dreaming. How do you have fun dreaming? Or better yet, there's a chapter in the book called For the Love of Being Stuck. How do you have fun being stuck? Well, we'll discuss that. How do you love the process? Well, do you love it in the way that it feels good? Not necessarily, but you love it in like you love, these experiences that help you grow. And the fact that being stuck eventually leads you to getting unstuck because every storm passes. And then the idea of through your process of business, family, friends, self, how do you organize with others and develop a team where you can then go out, and as Paulo Coelho says in The Alchemist, you can go out and become a part of the soul of the world. So we'll talk about those types of concepts as well. And as I mentioned in the intro to the show, we really talk about these things within a paradigm that's called going deeper. It's DEEPER. Now, the D stands for dream. The first E stands for engage, meaning are you engaged in your dream? Are you engaged in the process? Are you committed? The second E stands for environment, creating a fertile environment around you, and we'll discuss that. The P stands for plan, and when I say plan, I kind of bend my rules a little bit. I want it to be written, but if you have a plan, an idea of what you're going to do, you're better off than most. But I believe, as I'll talk about it later, if it's not written, it's really just a dream. So written plan. The third E is for execute, going out and doing it. And then you have R, and that means reflect. And so DEEPER, going deeper, dreaming, engaging, creating a fertile environment, planning, executing, reflecting, and then guess what you do? You press repeat, because this is really cyclical. You wonder why you're in the same relationships and they go the same way. It's because life is cyclical. You see patterns in your office space and the company you may own and run, and you wonder why, because everything is cyclical. Those companies that do very well in relationships that do very well, they do things by design in a written plan cyclically. They continue to go on, and it's about the refinement of who we are. Sometimes people come up to me and say, well, how can I be a better person? Well, I don't want you to be a better person. I want you to be who you are, number one. But then number two, I want to make sure that you understand that it's about a refinement process. Stephen Covey in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about the idea of, or one of the 7 habits being sharpening your saw. And to me, that means making sure that we refine ourselves in every step. So as we go into later episodes and think about things in terms of having fun, loving the process, and organizing with others, flow, and always using the life model of going deeper in order to do so. Dreaming, engaging, creating great environments, planning, executing and reflecting, and then pressing repeat. You have to press repeat on that, right? So I'm often asked, and you may ask yourself, well, why do a podcast, Marcus? What is behind this? And as a child, my mom, and even as an adult, my mom is always like, son, you are a social worker. You haven't found a problem that you haven't liked to try to solve, and people that you have not tried to help. And it's really an underlying essence of who I am and who Marcus Johnson is. I think that's why I love performing so much and playing and seeing the smile on people's faces. And when I saw that I could do that, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what I want to do. So just an insight into me, my passion is really using my successes and my failures to help people change those things that they can, and to accept those things that they can't in order to move forward using a model like a deeper to be effectively successful. And I don't mean from a level of money. I don't mean big houses successful. What I mean is when you can make the choice to let something go, or when you can make the choice to look in the mirror and smile at yourself regardless of where you are and your circumstances, you will achieve peace. And that is a level of gratitude towards yourself that is not necessarily taught in our schools and not really taught at home. It's not taught in our society, but that's what we're going to teach here. Making sure that you accept not where you are, right? Your condition, as I heard a pastor say recently, is not your conclusion. We're just at the beginning. And then you can wake up each day and say, higher power, dear God, whoever it is that you pray to, today, this second, this minute, this breath, this heartbeat, this fact that my eyes can see, this is the first of the rest of my life. This is the first second and the beginning of the rest of my life. And that's my passion, you all, to give you models, to give you acronyms, to give you people, to give you experiences, to give you insight into finding you. Because the biggest tragedy out here is unrealized potential and being a victim in your life because you are not actively engaged in it. That's really big. If you think that you are the victim of life, it is really because you're not actively engaged in who you are. You are living not life. Life is living you, or you are living society. And that is not how we get our flow on. So we're going to go into things like the deeper model. We're going to explore, more of what For the Love Of is, flow, having fun, loving, and organizing. We're going to discuss concepts around dreaming, meditation, focus, health and wellness, work-life balance, and what that is, and is there such a thing in the short term versus the long term. We'll talk about gratitude. We'll talk about for the love of being stuck. The idea that, sometimes it's raining so hard in life that you need to pull over near an underpass, put on your hazard lights, and just chill for a second until you can get going again. And it's okay to take that breather. Things like for the love of planning, perseverance, relationships. And my hope is that I will reach out to many of my friends with whom I perform or do business, fellow entrepreneurs, sister entrepreneurs that will come on and talk about these concepts with us and some of the things and the ways that they have gone deeper in their lives to manage their levels of success and where they are now, working towards the concept of peace. Getting up in the morning feeling good about oneself, taking one step in front of the other, having faith even though it might be a little bit cloudy outside. That, you all, that is how we will get our flow on. So each and every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we are going to continue to release new versions and episodes of the FLO Podcast. And I want you to be ready with a pen and a paper. And if you're driving in your car and listening to this, or if you just need to meditate on it, you can do that as well. But I really want you to take notes. I'm one, whether I'm in a sermon or a seminar, I am writing things down and how they relate to me, because I can go back over them later and get my key points out of it. And that's what I want. And each show will end with a tip. And that is your tip, to make sure that you write things down. If you don't learn anything or take anything from this segment, it is that. Make sure that you document all you can. If you need to take index cards with you to pull out of a wallet or a bag so that you can jot down notes, do that. If you need an app like Evernote or Asana, some people use Monday, some people use Trello, all these productivity software pieces, or just texting a note to yourself, because, we need that. when the next notification comes in, you'll forget about it. And hey, if you have a really good thought or a really good poem or a really good idea or a really good song, you know what you can do? Grab your phone, put it on video, and just talk to yourself. That way you can transcribe it at a later date. But the thing is, you need to document all that you do, because every second is masterful of your life. Every second of your life, you're getting your flow on. And when you reach those higher levels, you should document it. So next Saturday, 9 a.m., we're going to go into the deeper model a little bit, quote unquote, deeper, so that you can learn what it is to dream, the engagement, the environment, the planning, the execution, and reflecting, so you can get your flow on, but have your pen and pad ready. In the meantime, if you want to catch up with me, you can always do so at marcusjohnson360.com. You can hit the podcast tab. Also, you can go online. The music in the background is available on our playlist, the FLO Podcast. You'll get that and other great lo-fi music and tunes. And you can also find out about our wine brand and how you could maybe even grab a glass of FLO Chardonnay or Cabernet and our Rosé along with the candle and put it all together. See how we're putting it together. Man, I'm not recreating the wheel. I'm just doing it. You know what I'm saying? And you can too. You can find your flow. Stick with me. Trust me, if you follow this life model, you too can find your flow in everything that you do, in your relationships, and in your business partnerships, in looking in the mirror, in your goals and objectives, and just being who you are, connected to everybody out here, so that you too can live your passion, or at least bring your passion to wherever you are. That's the superpower. That is the super flow. And that is how we're going to get our flow on. So I'll see you next Saturday, 9 a.m. for the FLO Podcast with Marcus Johnson, where we talk about all things for the love of you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And always do your flow. Peace.